the book. So this book is called Chrysanthemum. Can you say that with me? Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. It sounds like music, doesn't it? Mum, 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 mum. And it's by Kevin Hankins. He's one of the authors that we're going to do an author study this year. A chrysanthemum is actually a flower. And that happens to be this little mouse's name, Chrysanthemum. And you see all those letters that she had to find for her name? Woo! Can you imagine? Maybe some of you can. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She's perfect. I bet your parents thought that when you were born, right? Maybe not she, but he. Said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. Some of you are going to have some new babies in your house too, right? Oh. And your mommy's going to look and say, they're perfect. Just like they looked down when you were born and said the same thing. Her name must be everything she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew, and when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. See? You gotta crawl before you walk. She grew, 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 and bam! There we go. Ready for school, just like you. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. Chrysanthemum. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. Chrysanthemum. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. She loved the way her name looked down when it was written in ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written in icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with her big fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect, and then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school. But when Mrs. Chud took roll, everyone giggled when they heard her name. Mrs. Chud said, Don, Eve, Lois, Al, Les, Kay, Max, Sue, Bill, Pat, Tom, Sam, Ken, Joe, Rita, Victoria, Chrysanthemum. And everybody laughed. Was that very nice? Nice to laugh at our friends, right? Especially over something as wonderful as their name. What would you have done if someone named Chrysanthemum walked into our classroom? How would you treat them? I knew it. I already knew it. Meeting you guys, I already know. It would be wonderful. They'd feel just at home. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria. And all the students lined up to go home. That was a nice Victoria. I wish I could, she said miserably. Oh no, what happened? How is it different before than now? That's right. You're right. She loved her name before. What's going on here? Welcome home, said Mother. Welcome home, said Father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag. And I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful. And precious and priceless and fascinating and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese and ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Have you ever played parcheesi before? Can't wait till we get back together. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. Oh, let's think about the difference. Different means things that are not the same. So yesterday she was running and happy and sunny, wearing a sunny dress. Today she wore a comfortable jumper and she walked slow. How do you think she's feeling if she's walking slow? Yeah. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Oh my goodness. Where do they go? They don't go to Wheatley. Chrysanthemum wilted, just like a flower. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What do you think dreadful means? If perfect was like really, really good up here, what do you think dreadful means? Yeah, bad or horrible. Dreadful is something you dread. You don't look forward to it. She's not happy about it right now. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, a chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your heads down. I don't know. I think Mrs. Chudd could have handled that a little bit better. Mrs. Spale would have handled that much differently, boys and girls. Trust me. I think you can't believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I. I thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School's no place for me. Uh-oh. Again. They said I even look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous. And envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle, just a little bit better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting. Ooh, who likes chocolate cake with buttercream frosting? Who likes chocolate cake? And another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. Parcheesi is a board game. See, she gets a lot of love and support. Boys, look at this picture. What do you think is happening here? Just notice this big giant person. Who does that look like? Yep, that little girl Victoria from her class. And look, what are those? Petals, right? Do you think that this is real? Did Victoria become a giant? No. You're right. I do think she's dreaming. Let's see. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked her leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of her life. The next day, Chrysanthemum wore the outfit with 7 pockets. Oh boy. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each and every flower. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. We're introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, and as everything else was about her, the students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. That's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Yes, scales. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen to be the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen to be the spiffy butterfly princess. Jo was chosen to be the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum was chosen to be a daisy. How do you think she felt about that? Chrysanthemum's daisy, Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it all wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was dreadful. What's so humorous? Said Mrs. Twinkle. Chrysanthemum was the answer. Her name's too long, said Jo. It scarcely fits her name tag, said Rita. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. She's named after a flower. My name is long, said Mrs. Twinkle. It is, said Jo. My name would scarcely fit on a name tag, said Mrs. Twinkle. It would, said Rita, pointing. And, Mrs. Twinkle, I'm named after a flower too. You are, said Victoria. Yes, said Mrs. Twinkle. My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. It's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum could barely understand what she was hearing. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. How do you think Mrs. Twinkle made her feel? Yeah, that's right. Now, how do you think the other kids are going to treat her? Let's see. I think you're right. Jo, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. That means like, oh. Call me Marigold, said Jo. I'm Carnation, said Rita, pointing. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. Look at the way she's going home. And there's the rainbow. There's an epilogue. You ready? Epilogue is like a story after a story. It's really cool. Overall, the class musical was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was an absolutely perfect daisy. Victoria made only one mistake. She completely forgot her lines as the dainty queen. Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the whole entire dance of flowers. Eventually, Mrs. Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. The end.